if you worked half as much, you will make more progress. All right, is that too bold of a statement to make? That can't be true, right? Every small business owner I talk to feels buried, busy from sun up to sundown, emails, orders, social media, fixing mistakes, handling fires. And yet at the end of the day, you kind of think, well, what did I actually move forward? Here's the hard truth. Most of what you're doing is not driving your results. Today, we're talking about the 80-20 rule, Pareto's Principle, some of us may call it, and really how perfection, overwork, and loose deadlines are quietly stealing your progress. So if you've ever felt at the end of the day, leaving it feeling exhausted, but not really accomplishing anything, this episode is for you. Stick with me all the way through because I'm going to give you a simple way to identify your top 20% and actually protect that 20% so you're getting the right things done and not just more. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you do that. Like the video, share it with other overwhelmed business owners out there. Let's help more people work on the right things in the right order. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let's get into this episode here.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights with the support of our success group. We're taking flight with our words strong, with vision so clear, building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force with our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Small Business Saturdays. I'm Aaron Montgomery, and this show exists for one reason: to help overwhelmed business owners work on their business with clarity, confidence, and intention. Not hustle, not grinding harder. We are here to fall deeper in love with what we get to do each day. We focus on doing the right things in the right order, because when everything feels urgent, nothing actually moves us forward. We use the Plant, Prepare, Pollinate framework from the Fundamentals of Business Success book. And Plant is where we create awareness and shift how you think. And Prepare is the next phase of the cycle where we build simple structures and systems so you're not guessing at what to do next. And then Pollinate is where we move things from thinking into doing. So that's where the real action happens here, real progress. So today's challenge is this. We're spending way too much time on low value tasks while your highest impact work sits there untouched, right? Does that hit home for anybody? So we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule, also called the Pareto Principle, and how it might be showing up in your business when it comes to your productivity. In Plant, we're going to uncover why being busy feels productive, even when it's actually not. In Prepare, we're going to walk through a simple way to identify your top 20% tasks, the things that are the most productive for you, so you stop guessing. And then in Pollinate, you're going to create a clear action plan that you can start using immediately. So let's dive into the Plant phase here. As I mentioned, the idea here is busy feels productive. But busy is often just organized avoidance, right? When you're overwhelmed, your brain looks for quick wins, things like answering the emails, tweaking a graphic, cleaning up a spreadsheet. I'm like reading these and I'm thinking about these things. I'm going, oh man, I do that, right? So you guys might be feeling the same thing. Maybe it's even rewriting something that was already good enough. And yes, these things feel very safe. They bring us this level of safety. They feel controllable. We know, oh, I can fix that. I can make that change. And they also give us tiny dopamine hits that make you feel like you're working. But here's the problem. They rarely move the needle. And so that's where the 80-20 rule shows up. Roughly 80% of the results that you're going to gain come from 20% of the effort that you put in. So Think about that, right? 80% of your revenue probably comes from a small group, 20% or so of your customers, 80% of complaints usually comes from a handful of people, those PETA customers. Um, and when it comes to progress, 80% of your momentum comes from a few key actions, about 20% of those actions. But most of us spend our days buried in that other 80%. Why? Well, perfection is one of those whys. It sneaks in. We add detail that does not increase the value of the finished product at all. You polish things nobody asked you to polish. You keep refining instead of finishing. It's got to be perfect, perfectionism. And suddenly 1 hour tasks turn into 4 hour, 8 hour, 2 day projects, right? And that's really Parkinson's law at work. We haven't talked about that yet, but the idea of Parkinson's law is that work expands to fill the time that we give to it. So if I tell myself I'm going to complete something in 4 hours, okay, I'll probably take the whole 4 hours. But what says that it has to take 4 hours? What if I said, well, I've only got an hour to do that, right? We've all got things where we go, I'm going to get that done, right? I'm going to be able to really kind of quickly get things done because you had a deadline. And so when we think about this, right, if you give yourself all day to do something versus giving yourself 30 minutes, what's the honest truth? You're going to get it done in 30 minutes, aren't you? Right? Think about what COVID did to us, where everybody had these grand plans for going online and doing more digital marketing, yet we didn't until COVID hit, and we had to. All right, and we figured it out. That 2-week long program that we had all lined out all of a sudden became a let's get it done in a half day. Because when there's no deadline at all, you procrastinate because your brain needs those boundaries. And there's this sneaky thing as well. And what sneaks in is you start working on things that are not even needed right now, or might not even actually bring anything to the project. Maybe it's stuff that you've got planned months from now, but you just happen to be in this space and, okay, I'm going to work on this future project, someday ideas. Meanwhile, the things that are actually going to move you forward today, the most important work, sits there untouched. And before we know it, right, time ends up flying away. The day's almost over. You feel like you ran hard, but you went nowhere. So have you had that experience before, right? So here's the mindset shift. If you've had that experience where you felt like you were very busy, but you ended up looking back and going, man, I wasn't very productive. And so the mindset shift I want you to take with you is progress actually comes from protecting the few things that matter most. Your job is not to finish everything. Your job is to finish the right things. So just sit with that for a moment, because once we accept that, everything starts to change, right? So your job is not to finish everything. Your job is not to complete your to-do list. Your job is to finish the right things. So let's dive into the prepare phase then, right? If that's true, if we sit with that and we go, I feel a little bit of truth in that, then we need a system. We need a way to identify what the right things are. And I want to keep this simple because complicated systems are just procrastination kind of dressed up in business casual, right? Those complicated systems. I want to identify a small set of tasks that actually drive results and stop letting everything else run our days. So we're going to do this in 3 short steps, right? I want to be quick here. I'm recording this, as you can tell, it's from my hotel room here at Dax, Kansas City. I'm recording this on Friday night, and want to make sure that we've got good content for you on Saturday, but I don't want to overwhelm you with too much. So three simple steps. First step is we're going to dump our tasks. And this just means grab a piece of paper, an open note on your phone, whatever. Write down everything you think you need to do this week. Not perfect, just everything you can think of right now to set a timer for 15 minutes. Not perfect, just get it out of your head. Calls you need to make, orders to process, marketing, follow-up, admin, projects, whatever shows up, all of it. This is not your to-do list. This is just a brain dump, right? So that's step number 1. Do a brain dump. Once we get it out of our heads into somewhere, now we can manage it better. Next, you're going to take that brain dump, and I want you to, if you wrote it on a piece of paper, circle it or highlight it, or if it's in a note or whatever, make it bold. I want you to circle the money and the momentum, right? And just one simple question for each item. If I only complete this, would it meaningfully move my business forward, right? Money and momentum. And be honest. There's no points for the answer that we think we should have, right? The honest answer is the one that gives us what we need. So circle ones that directly connect to revenue, your customer's experience, or your main goal right now. These are things like, following up with a warm lead, or finishing a project launch, or reaching out to a key partner, or creating an offer, or improving a process that saves you hours every week, right? Like, they're going to show up looking like those things. They're going to move your money or your momentum. All right, so that's number 2. And at this point, what I've noticed is a lot of people will at this stage have ended up with, maybe 2 to 5 items. And that's your 20%, right? That's what is going to move the needle. Everything else is support work. Important, yes, for sure, but not equal. So it doesn't get the first part of your energy. It gets the, okay, I've got my 20% done. Now I've got time to work on my 80% if I need to. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3 is we need to define what done looks like, right? We talked about this in pretty good depth last week, but it's important to have this information of what done looks like to keep us on track and focused on that top 20%. So instead of writing things like work on the website, write publish homepage copy, and get very specific. Instead of saying my to-do list is marketing, maybe it's something like send one email to my list. Instead of organizing my orders, write ship today's orders by 3 p.m. Right? Any orders that are on the production schedule today by 3 p.m. See, vague tasks create procrastination. So let me give you a practical example of what this might look like for somebody that's tuned in right now. Let's say that you run a print shop. Your list might include things like answering emails, ordering supplies, posting on social media, cleaning up the shop, fixing the artwork, quoting new jobs. List goes on and on and on. Now, your top 20%, once you go and start circling what is revenue and what is momentum, right? That could be quoting new jobs and following up on last week's estimates, right? Those 2 actions probably drive most of your revenue. So those get your protected time first. Everything else then fits in around that, right? And so that's where Parkinson's law comes back into this idea. Put time limits on your top tasks. So if quoting new opportunities is an important task for you, then the time limit is I'm going to quote jobs from 9 to 10. I've got 1 hour. I got to focus. I got to get it done. And then I'm going to follow up with leads for 30 minutes. And I got to make sure that I'm following up with 5 leads in 30 minutes. So there's no studying, procrastinating, trying to figure it out. What's the perfect line to say? You pick up the phone 5 times. You send that email 5 times. When you give work a container, it's going to shrink to fit inside that container. Now, one more important rule in our prepare phase here is stop working on things that are not planned to be accomplished until months off. We kind of mentioned this already, but just because it shows up as an item that you might want to work on, it doesn't mean it has to be done right now or this week. I use a system where, idea, and we talked about this in a previous episode in depth, but idea shows up and then I move it to a Sunday further out so it can show up on that week when it's time. And so if it's not part of this week's top priorities, park it, right? In the Facebook group, I had a post where a lot of people came in there and I said, okay, if you watch Small Business Saturdays, if you know what I'm talking about, write parking lot, right? And a lot of people did that. So what's your parking lot? Where are you going to park it? Write it down for later and move on. You're going to win this game of the 80-20 rule and getting your time back because you're completing meaningful small chunks in sequence, not by juggling 10 future projects at once. So there you go. That's our strategy here. We're going to pick our top priorities out of after we have our dump, right? And then, so first is dump, second is pick your priorities, and then third is define what done means. All right. Now, with that, we can easily now move into our pollinate phase. And this is where it's time to implement these actions, right? How do we get this and make it work for us moving forward? It's time to stop noodling our heads and thinking and actually change the way we go about making headway. So here's the big question. What does done look like for you? And not everything, but your top 20%. As we talked about last week, growth is an infinite game, but we have to keep checking off those mile markers to know that we're moving forward. So after you've picked your top 2 or 3 priorities, go back to the circled items from your prepare phase and make sure that you're not choosing a whole bunch that is not possible to get done that week. If your tasks are too big to be done in that week, then you need to chunk it down a little bit. Because if everything feels important, you have not narrowed it down enough. And these should be the tasks that directly connect to revenue and momentum or your main goal right now. We talked about that already, but that's really important. And so write them down at the top of your page, right? So I want you to just have a note page there or somewhere. Maybe you do have a Google Doc if you're a digital person. But let's start writing these things down. I want you to see how this is going to look. So what are your 2 to 3 top priorities, projects that you feel like you can accomplish this week? And then what you're going to do is you're going to schedule them first. So open up your calendar, block the time for those tasks before you book any meetings, before you check any emails, before you start reacting to everyone else's needs. Even if you've got only 30-minute windows in there, go ahead and get it scheduled. And so, for example, as we talked about earlier, maybe quoting goes on your calendar from 9 to 10 on Monday mornings. Maybe following up with last week's lead is Tuesday from 10 to 10:30. Maybe building the offer for your next promotion is Wednesday from 9 to 9:45. And these are appointments with your business. Treat them like you would a customer meeting. And then just so you have all this in one place, I said, let's make that note. Next, you're going to go ahead and on your note there, you're going to write what your schedule is, right? It's just double reinforcing this for us. And then the third thing we're going to do is we're going to shrink the tasks down, right? If it's something that still feels a little overwhelming, and even if it does feel a little bit smaller, what are the steps that we need to take? We're basically taking this and continuing to reverse engineer it down. So instead of, again, launching a new product, write a product description, right? So first I need to maybe go to the manufacturer's website and get some more details about the product. Second, I need to compile all that information and maybe I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. Third, I'm going to take what I get out of ChatGPT and I'm going to start developing it into a product description that sounds like me. Fourth, maybe is choosing pricing, right? Fifth could be uploading the listing, actually uploading pictures online. Just small parts, one after another. And now we've shrunk that task down to where we can manage that and quickly get that done. The fourth thing is we need to make sure that we protect that window. So after you've written on your sheet there, we've shrunk that task down. So top priorities, our schedule for the priorities, each task shrunk down into its smallest bits and parts, as small as you can get. Fourth, we're going to protect window. All right, when that block of time arrives, we have to close everything, right? Close your inbox, silence your notifications, close the social media, let your team know that you're unavailable unless the building's on fire, right? And this is how you stop the busy work from stealing your best energy, is we've got to protect these windows. So the fourth thing I want you to do is I want you to make a commitment to yourself. And that commitment is just, we're going to simply have you write on your page there, whether that's Google Docs or you're handwriting it out there, right? I am committed to protecting the times that I have scheduled, and I'm going to, whatever your distractions, right? I'm not getting on social media. people walking in, whatever it is, make those commitments to those things, and then I want you to sign it. All right. I am committed to protecting these windows by closing social media, silencing my notifications, letting your team know you're unavailable, whatever it is for you. It could be all of those things. It could be more of those things. Write that on there and then sign it. Okay. So make a commitment, make a contract with yourself. And then the fifth thing is you're going to decide your finish line. All right. We talked about breaking this down into the smallest pieces, but we want to take this one step further. I want you to say out loud what done looks like, right? So if it is that product launch, done specifically looks like when you've published that product on your website and maybe the launch means you've shared it on your social media account, right? It could just be that you launched it, whatever's right for you. I'm not telling you which way to go here. I'm just giving you some examples. So you're going to say out loud, and then you're going to write it. I will submit the new product launched on my website and sent out the email to customers about the new product. I will send the email. I will submit the quote. I will publish the page, right? And as much detail as you can get to that, and then sign it one more time, right? So this is one of those documents, these forms, that you got to sign it twice, right? Sign it 2 times because that's where the rubber meets the road. So let me close with a simple example to inspire you guys here. Let's say your top priority is to bring in more business. Your Pollinate plan might look a little something like this. You're going to start by writing down 5 customers or prospects who already know you, right? Warm leads. You're going to draft 1 short follow-up message. You're going to block 30 minutes on your calendar. And then you're going to send all 5 messages in that 30-minute calendar window. And then you're going to schedule follow-ups. And then you're going to mark it complete. Right? That's it. We don't need fancy software, no 12-step funnels, just focused action on the 20% that matters. And we can do that with a simple note page. Right? We don't need all these fancy things. And here's the magic. When we do this consistently, right? Meaning we show up for this regularly, your confidence in yourself and this process is going to grow, and you're going to get more and more confidence about the fact that you're working on the right things at the right time. And therefore, you're going to see more results more quickly than if you would have just kept trying to do all things and be busy and not productive, right? So again, most of your results are going to come from a very small portion of your effort, only 20%. And so you don't need to do more. This is not if it only comes from 20%, if I crank up the output, I'm going to get there, right? Okay, yes, technically that's true from just a pure math standpoint. But the fact of the matter is we only have so much energy. So how much more do you have to give to make sure that you're getting to those results? I don't think that's sustainable. What is sustainable is clarity in working on the things that seem to be the most important, learning from those patterns and continuing to do more. And so that reminder of that only 20% of your tasks are really going to move the needle. And then the fact that Parkinson's law tells us that we will fill in any available time we give ourselves with work, right? How about instead of spending 4 hours on a project, you spend an hour on it, you get it to a place where you're proud of it, and then you take an hour break, and then you spend an hour with your family, and then you get an hour of bonus planning time and working on your business, right? You still got the project done, but now we're not running ourselves ragged trying to make 4 hours work because it has to be perfect. Perfection steals time, right? Vague tasks, they create procrastination, and unprotected calendars invite distractions. But when you identify your top 2 or 3 priorities, defining what done looks like, and then scheduling them first, everything starts to change. It just needs you to implement that system. And so the progress is going to come from you protecting those 20% actions and the energy you have to do that. So here's your call to action. Open up your calendar, literally right now, as soon as we're done here. Heck, do it right now. I don't care. Okay, I'm going to wait for you. No, just kidding. I'm going to keep going, but open it up right now. Block 30 minutes this week, sometime this week, for your top 20% task. Just block it out and say top 20%. Block it out. And that's the one thing that actually moves your business forward. And here's what we're going to do. Again, call to action. I'm going to post something in the Facebook group here about this. But if you want to, if it's fun, if it's something that you want some accountability on this, I will be your accountability partner for this next week in this priority task. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to name the appointment. You're going to put it on your calendar, and then you're going to add me to the calendar invite. Right? I will follow up with you. If you've added me to the calendar invite, Aaron@oursuccessgroup.com, I will follow up with you afterwards and we will celebrate together. Right? So now you've got that built-in accountability. All it takes is you adding my name to a calendar invite about your top 20% project this week. Right? So it's got to be this week. So today is the 21st of February. So what's that? 28th? So it's got to be before the 28th of February. Right? So add me to your calendar, and there you go. Treat it like a real meeting, because it is. This is a future, a meeting with your future business success. Now, the other thing that we can do here for a little more accountability, if you'd like, is take a screenshot of your calendar and post it on the Facebook group, right? And that's going to do two things for you, both internally, that your business is important, right? But if you're willing to put yourself out there enough where you post a screenshot of your calendar invite, that's proof for you internally that your business is important to you. But it's also a way to inspire others and raise the tide together. So post it in the Entrepreneur Success Hub Facebook group. I'll put that on screen here, maybe. Group, there we go. So osg.link/group. Just head over there. And we want to be inspired by your screenshots that we can also then cheer each other on. So you got two opportunities for action here. Whatever is right for you, do both of them. If I were you, I'd do both. Like, if you really are serious about moving your business forward, do both of them. All right. Include me on your calendar invite, and then post a screenshot in the Entrepreneur Success Hub Facebook group. You will see a post there. I will post right after this is done and let you know, hey, go here. Here's the place to post. If you don't see it, it doesn't matter. Post your own, osg.link/group, and post it right there. All right. Now, we're inspired. We're going to do this together. So I'm loving that part. I can't get back to my notes here. Doing it from the hotels a little bit. There we go. All right. I had to pull up my notes about what we're talking about next week. All right. Next week, we're going to talk about escaping the small business rabbit holes. Right? There's plenty of these rabbit holes that we go down. Things like weak boundaries, poor energy management, which we're talking about here a little bit, overworking, right? Yep. See a theme here, you guys. Chasing distractions. See a theme over the last few weeks. How are you going to identify real revenue generating projects so you stop spinning and start building, right? And so we talked about some ways that we can just get to that 20%, but next week we're going to go even deeper and figure out what are the real revenue generating projects. How do we avoid that rabbit hole that we tend to run down when we see that shiny object? So put in the comments if you're going to plan to tune in next week. And until then, make sure that you post your calendar appointment screenshot in the Facebook group, again at osg.link/group. If this hit home with you today, make sure that you are liking the video, that you're subscribing to our channel, both on YouTube and Facebook, following. And if you're on Facebook, share it with another creative business owner who needs less work and more productivity. And that's pretty much every business owner by the way. So just share it with all of them. And I will plan on seeing you guys next Saturday. Have a great rest of your Saturday. And remember that a rising tide does lift all boats. So progress in your business is never just personal. How you show up, how you serve, and how you lead becomes salt and light for others. Have an awesome day.
Dark gaze, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke